Hey everyone, welcome to Real Estate Tips and Tricks. My name's Angela Fazio, and apparently it's also Kristen Cantrell today. But I'm here with my co-host Sam Staskal and our special guest Cathrine Schaeffer. I'm so excited. She is
Hey.
here in Arizona. Catherine's been in the business for 18 years. She is an amazing coach, mentor. She was one of my brokers for many years, has worked with me her entire career, which I'm proud to say. And she is an absolute rock star. And I am excited about her concept today because she's going to be talking about seller contingencies today, which sometimes when you hear seller contingencies, you're like, what? I've never even heard of seller contingencies before. Like, what does that mean? But Catherine's going to walk us through it. First of all, hi, Sam. How are you today?
Good. It took me a minute to understand why you were calling yourself Kristen Cantrell. I'm like, what?
It's right there. I got to fix that. I will fix that while we're doing it. But yeah, what is my problem? Let's get on the same page here. There we go. So anyway, Cathrine, I am so glad to have you here today. Why don't you get us started and tell us what the heck is a seller contingency? What do you mean? What are you going to talk to us about today?
So today's market, at least in the Arizona area, and I know in many, many, many other areas of the country, is super seller centric. And we have sellers who we've met with who want to sell, but they can't figure out where they're going, how they're getting there, and how to get into that next house. And as a result, they've put the brakes on actually listing their home. So consequently, you have a seller who's willing and able, but they're just not ready yet. And it's hard to figure out, how do I get this house on the market and also find them another house? And in the Arizona market, at least, and I'm sure it's many other places in the country, sellers aren't really willing to look at a contingent offer where you're contingent on the sale of another house. So last summer, I was meeting with clients that were in that exact situation. And I said to them, why don't we just make the sale of your house contingent upon you finding a house? And then there was dead silence. And they were like,
how do I do that?
How do we do that? And so what I've done with that is I created some language, which I'm happy to share. And if anybody wants the exact language, just shoot me a text there at my phone number, and I'll email you that language out. And of course, you're going to want to run that language by your broker, particularly if you're in another state, because it's not legal advice by any stretch of the imagination. But here in Arizona, I know it works really well because I've done it multiple times now. But basically what happens is when you send out your counter offers on your multiple offer situation on your property, you say that the entire sale is contingent upon the seller finding a replacement property. And you put all the what ifs and the timelines and everything around it. And I'll read you my document in just a second. It's only a couple sentences, so it's not like I'm going to be reading you a whole diatribe. So don't worry about that, because that would be boring. But it gives the language. And I didn't advertise it in the MLS because the very first time I did it, I was a little concerned about, is this going to chase people away? But now I'm actually adding the language in the private remarks of our MLS saying this offer is going to be contingent upon the seller finding a new property. Please see the documents tab and check out the information. And it has not stopped that multiple offer situation at all. And buyers are accepting the terms of that. And then what happens is it gives your seller 60, 90, 120 days to go out and find their replacement property. Now, if their purchase is still going to be contingent upon them selling that house, that's a little bit tough in our market here, Sam. I don't know what it's like in your market, and I don't know what it's like in anybody else's market, but that's still a little bit tough. So one of the other great things that we've been able to do is I've been able to explain to my sellers how if they can qualify with just the minimum down, we can still go out and find another property for them. And then we can do a lease back on that property, the property they're selling, and then take their proceeds and actually reduce their LTV so that they're not having, just a 3% down. So it's working really, really well for me. I've done it about 5 times since the last time I started it last summer. And it has taken my sellers from that point of frozen, can't move forward, afraid to do anything because we don't want to be homeless and we don't want to move multiple times, to actually moving forward and getting their properties on the market. So it's been super exciting for me to be able to present this to my clients.
So can we break a couple of things down? I heard a bunch of things. So I'm going to want to start back with the seller contingency and talk through a couple of the what ifs. Now, we're going to say it really loud. We're talking right now from the point of the Arizona market. All of these things should be run by your broker to ensure that you've got your bases covered in your state. I'm recording this so nobody can misquote me. So let's break down the first part. And then the second part I'm going to want to, that you blew through, that I'm with you, but I want to give a little bit more information, is that scenario of finding something with minimum down, lease back, LTV, blah, 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 all of those terms. But let's start first with the basic idea of what you're saying is, okay, buyers that come to this property and want to make an offer, it's contingent upon us finding a house. What are some of the what ifs that you cover when you're speaking to a seller and that you cover in writing?
Yes. So it starts with just when now that I'm putting the language in the MLS under the documents tab, it says the buyer is aware that the contract is contingent upon the seller signing a purchase agreement to buy a replacement home by X date, whatever the date is. And that number is something at your listing appointment with your seller you have to come to agreement on. Do you think we can find you something? And it's really me telling them how long I think it's going to take us to find them something in 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, but agreement by X date. And then the next sentence says, this is the what if the seller fails to deliver the notice and disclosure of their intent to proceed by X date, the buyer may cancel the contract and the buyer's earnest money would be released back to the buyer. And then I go on and I say the buyer may unilaterally, meaning one-sided, cancel the contract at any time prior to the seller's delivery of the notice and disclosure that they're moving forward on this purchase. And at that point, the buyer earnest money shall be released. So the buyer can unilaterally cancel, get their earnest money back. And then it goes on and it says that all—
Okay, wait, hold on right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna slow it down for some people really quick, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I talk fast. I know. It's that East Coast stuff.
So the first step that you said is, okay, buyers, you're agreeing to stick around at some level. You're agreeing to stick around, and you're going to give me, let's use 90 days. You're going to give me 90 days to
find a property.
Some people are funny. So take 90 days to go find a house. And then at some point, the way that the buyer knows the seller has found a house, there's going to be some kind of a notice. Hey, listen, by the way, it's going to be something in writing that says, we're under contract with the house. We're moving forward.
With you buying our house.
With you buying the house, right?
Exactly.
Or the buyers could get antsy during that 90 days. Maybe they find another house. Maybe they decide they don't want that house. Whatever it is, they can go, I'm out, give me my money back. Before the seller says, and this is, you guys, this is just an example. This is not like a lawyer wrote this up. It is not like magic dust. It's just an example. Yeah, there's no magic dust on this. It's just an example of some creative thinking in today's market that you can start to consider and talk over with your broker. Okay, so I've got you here. Let's say they got 90 days and there's a unilateral agreement that the buyer can back out. So the buyer feels comfortable. They're like, okay, I might get this house that I love, and I have a chance to get out and keep my money if I don't. What do you do? Okay, no, you drive it. I'll ask questions. The next sentence is, okay, you got those two things.
Yep. So then, exactly. So then after that, the contractual timeframes, excluding depositing their earnest money and the opening of escrow, don't begin until the seller says, hey, buyer, we found a house and we're going to go ahead and sell to you.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about that. What does that mean? Okay, so in Arizona, as soon as you go under contract, we have an inspection period.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some kind of form of that all over the United States. Well, you don't want them to start that because then they're spending money on inspections, and we're starting to do all of these things.
Appraisals and all kinds of stuff.
Appraisals and all these things. So no, what we're doing is saying nothing happens except for I'm going to put my earnest money where it needs to go, and I'm going to open escrow, whatever that happens in your state. But nothing happens until the seller says, found a house, here's your notice. And for all intents and purposes, that found a house, let's move forward, feels like the contract date. Although it's not the contract date. It feels like, for all the other timelines, it feels like, do you even stipulate that close of escrow is X amount of days from delivery of notice?
Yes, it does. It goes on. I never got all the way through it, but yes, it goes on. Yeah.
So bossy, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And then it goes on and it says, close of escrow shall happen by agreed upon time frame between the buyer and seller. And it will be evidenced by a addendum to the residential, it says an AAR addendum to the residential purchase contract. So then we either go with the typical 30, 45 days but we don't stipulate what it's going to be until we deliver that notice. Then we come back and figure it out based on the seller's offer on what they're going to buy. So it protects my seller, it protects the buyer. And I was trying to be fair and equitable to all parties in this, because buyers are going to be reticent to move forward with this if it's just all exposure for the buyer. And but it's interesting, as our market has become more and more seller centric over the past 9 months. I don't take this the wrong way, but man, buyers are just rolling over and taking it.
Yeah. So let me make a couple of comments because I'm seeing some comments.
Sure.
First of all, I understand that anytime you add language to a contract, see now here, this might be different in other states. Here in Arizona, we have the authority with our license. We have the authority to write contracts. If we wanted to, we could write them from scratch on a napkin. That's just our state. And there are several states that are like this. In other states, this may not be okay with your broker. You might not be comfortable with it, and that's okay. So, but here's the deal. When it happened in 08, 09, when we had a crazy market, every time the market shifts dramatically or there is a dramatic imbalance in the buyer-seller markets, there's always this demand for some creativity within legal bounds. So I want to encourage you, if you're freaking out when you're listening to this, either go talk to your broker and get unfreaked out, or don't use it, But my caution is those of us who are thoughtfully and carefully and methodically thinking through creative ways to help our buyers and sellers, we're going to smoke you. That's just the truth, So I understand people who are hesitant, but it's always wise to be hesitant, and it's wise to look into language and talk to brokers and make sure you're being a great real estate agent. But beyond that, we're just trying to help you out.
Can I talk now?
Weird. You want to talk too?
Yes. I was waiting for a pause in both of you and I didn't get one. So in Wisconsin, where I am, I have seen it. I just saw it recently, actually, they were given 90 days to find a new home. Now, are you putting that in your listing contract with the seller as well as in the remarks or the counter offer, or are you just doing it once you get an offer, putting it back in the multiple counter?
No, because in Arizona, the listing agreement is between the seller and the broker.
Yep.
And I have the authority to make those decisions. I don't really need to put it in my ER, but if my seller wanted it in the ER, then I would happily put it in there. My business model is such that 99% of my business is referral and past clients. I'm a wicked master at my center of influence. And so that's where all my business comes from. So these are people I have relationship with and a level of trust. So consequently, I don't feel the need, nor have my clients ever felt the need for me to put that in the ER. But if I went on a listing appointment and somebody was asking me, absolutely, I would add that language to my ER and say there would be no penalty to my seller to if it doesn't move forward, that they don't owe me anything, and there's no financial penalty to them.
Okay.
The other thing I know about you, Cathrine, is you're excellent at, once you have a conversation with a client, especially in situations, follow up with an email so that there's no room, or there's very little room for miscommunication. So that's another piece of advice that Cathrine and I have tried to drill into, whichever one, grill you or drill you, right? Into agents, is when you have conversations, you should definitely follow up with an email. No, and not every single one. Hey, I said hello to you today and you said thank you very much. Not that, but when you're having conversations about the way a decision is being made and you think you're on the same page with your client, it's so wise. Hey, I'm writing this email to make sure that we are understanding each other clearly and that I'm not messing it up. Here's what we talked about today. Please let me know if at all I've gotten this wrong, so you can cover yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so moving on with that, once we go under contract, and then I take my seller out, we find them a replacement home. And by the way, in Arizona, it's Article 26 of our Arizona Constitution that allows us as realtors to write purchase contracts on napkins.
We don't, but
recommend
we could.
No. But
we're not allowed to in Wisconsin. We have state specified forms.
Yeah. Well, and brokers here would say, no. When I was designated broker, I was like, no, use the designated forms. But we do have that power in Arizona. But when I first came up with this language, I used a form that we have for a buyer contingency. So when the buyer comes in and their property is contingent upon the sale of their house, so I pulled up that form and I picked it apart to create my seller contingency. Then at the point in time when I started using this, I was the designated broker, so I read over it, I approved it, and started utilizing it. Then when I moved brokerages and came over to EXP, I shot it over to our DB there and said, hey, are you guys okay with this? And they were like, yeah, actually, can we use that? And so it's worked out really, really well in Arizona. And again, as Angela stressed, if you're in another state, I'm happy to share the information with you. Just shoot me a text. But the other part of that is, if you have a buyer contingency document, pick it apart, put something together, and shoot it off to your broker and say, hey, can we do this in our market? And but anyway, going back now, so my client's under contract. We start that shopping for their replacement property. We find them a replacement property. One of the key things that I don't do is we don't deliver the agreement notice to proceed with the buyer on the seller's property until my sellers have satisfied their due diligence period. Because what I don't want to do is say, hey, buyer, we're moving forward. Then we have a home inspection and something icky comes up and my seller's like, we don't want this house anymore. Because now we've already said to that buyer, we're moving forward. So there's a couple key contingencies that we need to satisfy before I deliver that notice. That's why a lot of times, particularly with the market the way it is now, I want 90 days to shop and then 20 more days to get through my contract contingencies before we're going to deliver that notice. So there's a lot to think about. And if you're uncomfortable with it, talk to your broker, call me. I'm happy to walk you through it from an Arizona perspective. I can't do it from any other state's perspective, but I can help you strategize and build thought process outside of the box.
Yes, and the other thing that we can help you do, and which I do almost on a daily basis now, is if you are coming to EXP and you're in a different state, putting you in touch with the right people, so you know who are you running these ideas by, and how are you going to get feedback on, because we want you guys to do a lot of business. We want to help you kill it in your market. So there are so many different ways. Cathrine has demonstrated this one excellently, that you can get yourself around big thinkers, get yourself around people who know how to think through this business at a higher level, so that you can get rid of some of those obstacles that are in your way of being a killer real estate agent in your market.
Mm-hmm. So one of the other key things to this too, because in our market, it's very difficult to get a seller to accept a contingent offer. So part of the pre-qualification process for my seller, before I even relist their house this way and we start the shopping process, is to make sure that they can make their next purchase in a non-contingent manner. And so I have them work with my lenders and see who can get them pre-qualified without having to sell their house. Now, of course, they want to sell their house, because most people don't want to be responsible for 2 mortgages if they have a mortgage on that first property. And then as soon as we close, potentially doing a small lease back, which has to be negotiated, doing a small lease back for them. So then they realize their proceeds. Now they can apply their proceeds to the purchase of their new home and move forward. Or they go ahead and purchase their new home with the reduced proceeds, and they use it to buy a boat. I don't know what they're going to use it for.
The other thing that I thought of, Cathrine, and I've actually done this one time personally with a client, is they moved into the new house, and when the old house closed, they were the lender, the loan program allowed them to do a one-time re-amortization of the loan. So which meant they took that chunk of money, they applied it to the loan balance, and the lender, when I say re-amortize, recalculate the loan based on a higher down payment that happened after closing date one time.
Yes.
And there are restrictions on that, but that's another thing. It's wise. Don't tune out, you guys, if you're listening to this. Make a note and say, I don't have a freaking idea what these people are talking about, but I'm going to make a note and I'm going to go talk to my lender and have my lender help me to understand it, because you want to grow in the knowledge of your business to become more and more excellent each day.
I think my lender called it a recast.
Yes.
Recast. Yes, correct.
Recast.
It is a recast.
Exactly.
Good for you, Sam Staskal.
I did it on my own house.
High five on the StreamYard.
Yeah, I did it on my own house. Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, long and the short of this is, I wasn't going to go down that bunny hole because I thought, that just might make somebody's head explode. But here's the thing is, as I've started to work through this process, and I too have gotten lenders involved, I have some of my loan officers like, we don't have a loan program for that. And so then I went out shopping for a couple of new loan officers to add to my team of professionals. And so I have found 2 new loan officers who can facilitate that recasting of the loan. And I've added them. So this is a whole team effort. And a lot of times I'll even have a agent who wants to buy my seller's house. They don't quite understand the process. They give me a jingle. I walk it through them the best I can. And then I end that conversation by saying, you need to go talk to your broker as well, because I also don't want to act as their boss or lead them down a bunny hole that they really aren't clear on what their buyers are getting into. So I encourage them. I hang up from that conversation. And one of the things Angela said, I am a nerd for email. I have a conversation, I follow up. I have a conversation, I follow up. And I even do that with agents who don't understand what we're trying to accomplish here, because I want them to seek their understanding from somebody other than little old me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I loved this topic. I think it's timely. I think it was deep. But again, try to understand it, you guys. Re-listen to it. Go ask your broker about it. Don't be afraid of things that are creative, that help you to give an advantage, that are ethical and that are safe. Ethical and safe. So, Cathrine, this has been an amazing tips and tricks. Thank you very, very much. Sam, you have any other things before we let these people go?
No, thanks, Cathrine.
My
Honestly,
pleasure.
Cathrine.
Super excited.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Please, you guys, reiterate. Some of you wrote in the chat your email and such. I'll do my best to share, but we are on so many different live sites. We don't want to miss you. So please take a note of Cathrine's phone number and reach out to her that way so you can get what you want from what she's offered. Thank you guys for watching Tips and Tricks. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you. Oh, by the way, one last announcement. It's kind of last minute, but here in Arizona, there is a woman's event, April 22nd and 23rd. It's called Flourish. You can find it on my Instagram, Moms in Real Estate. And it is 2 days of wonderful women events. That's no charge to you. You just have to get yourself out here to Chandler, Arizona. Please check out, again, Moms in Real Estate Instagram. You probably can go into my Instagram too, the Iconic Power Couple, and find the information in the bio in the milkshake. So I hope to see some of you ladies there. God bless you and have a wonderful day. Yes, you will, Sam. I can't wait.
All right.
Bye, guys. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.